right here on Sky News Business. Well, with record low interest rates, term deposits have never been so unattractive, and yet for this retail investors looking for fixed income products, the choices have been quite limited. Although there has been a great deal of talk about the need for a bond market open to mum and dad investors, so far it has remained a bit of a pipe dream. But one company is attempting to do just that by packaging corporate bonds into digestible, tradable blocks that can be bought directly through the ASX, giving investors the opportunity to buy into the corporate bond market previously restricted to institutions. Well, the CEO of the Australian Corporate Bond Company, which today launched their range of XTB units, spoke with Carrington Clarke. That's CEO Richard Murphy.
The problem with actual bonds being available on the ASX is the issuers of the bonds, the corporates, aren't doing the prospectus and listing the bond and paying all of the registry fees, etc. So that's a bit of a conundrum. What we're doing is saying, well, recognising that as a problem, we are going to package up the bonds from the wholesale market and put them on the ASX. So it's kind of one step removed from the actual bond. It's got a wrapper security around it called an XTB. But the XTB doesn't do anything. It basically is a reasonably transparent access to the returns in terms of the principal, in terms of the coupons payable by the bond.
Okay, but you've worked out a business model that you think will work, that where you're able to get a fee on top of this that will allow you this to make sense, to give you a profit. Why is it that we're not going to see those who actually issue the bonds take on that exact same model and to get that management fee?
Well, if that was the case, then we would have seen it long before now. So for 20 years, the issuers of bonds have not been listing their bonds on the ASX. They're of course not in the business of manufacturing products and putting them on the exchange. They're either bankers or they're miners or they're supermarkets or casino owners, etc. So that's their business. But they haven't put their bonds, which is a capital raising exercise, on the exchange for the very simple reason that they can raise the same capital they need from the wholesale market in a much faster, cheaper and easier manner, and that's the nature of why bonds haven't come on the ASX.
But I mean, you're effectively getting a slight premium from retailers. Wouldn't that be attractive also to the issuers of the bonds to try and capture that premium themselves as opposed to you capturing it?
It's more likely going to be attractive if we're successful to competitors to us, in other words, other manufacturers who can work out how to package up bonds and put them on the exchange. I don't really see a reaction of issuing corporates as being let's try and capture that fee somehow. And in fact, the response we've received from the companies underlying the XTBs has been comprehensively, overwhelmingly supportive in terms of, well, we don't want to do it on the ASX. We understand you charge a fee for it, but they see that as a good thing. So no, I don't see that as being a risk. Of course, if we're successful, like every successful product, there will be competitors.
We had Governor Glenn Stevens speaking quite recently about what he called the perverse chase for yield that we're seeing around the world, and the fact that we don't have the access to the fixed income returns that we previously may have. You seem to want to kind of plug that market and go after especially the self-managed superannuation funds who do want these kind of fixed income returns. But do you think they understand corporate bonds enough to be able to be intelligent investors in how they invest in them?
That's exactly why we developed the business. And in terms of the investor understanding, one of the key things we saw was education. So if you have a look at our PDS, it goes beyond what normal PDSs would say in terms of here's the terms of the security, and becomes an educational document in many different aspects. And then our website does the same thing, and our education of brokers and independent financial advisors recognises that there's a big part of education, education needs to play in developing this market. But having said that, I think the level of education required, say, pre-GFC would have been, say, something like this level, and post-GFC it shrunk somewhat because of the GFC. An awful lot of people have put money into term deposits and understand the concept of putting money in here and getting it out here and getting coupons along the way, which is similar to a bond in terms of profile. While the instrument is clearly different, but also people investing in hybrids over the last 7 or 8 years have got people used to a security that's, while it's not a fixed income security, it's more complex, but they've got a level of understanding of fixed income-like investment. So there's definitely a role for education, an important role for education, but we're certainly finding it not as hard as we thought it was going to be in terms of the understanding out there amongst the broker community and the financial planner community of fixed income investments. It's still there and it's an ongoing need, but not as difficult as we thought.